Good evening, everyone. Let me take this opportunity to thank high school moms, GC and Abhishek Gupta for this opportunity. I'm equally excited to host today's discussion since it represents all stakeholders, a school, student, school principal, a vice principal, career counselor, and high school coordinator. And now think of the time when you graduated from, from high school or finished your matriculation exams, which is grade 10th exam. The first question everybody asks you, or continue to ask, not just asked us, but continue to ask is what percentage did you get? If your response says, say 90% and above, many people will say, I don't know how do you get these marks these days. In our times, the topper of the school would barely get 80%. That's a comment from adults. If you 80 plus percentage, many would wonder if you could have done better or write you off. And if you say something below 80%, you'll be judged mostly as someone who's not keen in academics. There'll be hundreds of questions or suggestions around what you can do since you're declared to be not academically inclined. So irony is conventionally and historically, we've decided that academic excellence is equal to intelligence. The question in today's time is academic excellence equivalent to intelligence? Through this exciting panel discussion, we want to understand, discuss, and intentionally challenge the conventional wisdom and understanding of academic excellence and intelligence. So let me introduce my co-panelists. First of all, let me invite Ms. Hema Chinapat, Principal, Oak Ridge International School, Gachibowli. Ms. Hema has been part of the Oak Ridge family since its inception. She joined the organization way back in 2001 as an English faculty after completing her post. She joined the organization in 2001 as an English faculty after completing her post-graduation in English literature from the University of Delhi. During her tenure at Oak Ridge, she has donned many mantles from teacher to coordinator, vice principal in the Hyderabad campus to finally become the principal of the Oak Ridge Bangalore campus in 2017. Be training and development, designing a curriculum, or aligning with international baccalaureate organization to develop a program, she's done it all. She was instrumental in introducing and facilitating many innovative and unique programs for students that would contribute to student growth. With a pleasing personality and a dynamic leadership, she would like to help build a progressive school, which you're already reading, Ms. Hema. Welcome, Ms. Hema. We're good to have you on the panel.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
My next co-panelist is Meghna Gandhi, career counselor of one of my favorite schools, Navrachna International School, Vadodara. Meghna has been associated with corporates like Bajaj Alliance and Honda Automobiles at the managerial level, and with Nananda College of Arts and Commerce as coordinator for their BBA program. She's also been a visiting faculty with institutes like ICFI, Sikkim Manipal University, and Navrachna University. She's having total 18 years of experience within corporate and in education world prior to joining Navrachna International School, Vadodara. Currently as career counselor at Navrachna International School, Vadodara since 2018, Meghna provides guidance to high school students exploring career options after schooling, coordinates visits from universities to facilitate student interaction with university representatives, liaison campus visits for the students, processes school documents for further admissions in India and abroad, and facilitate exams like PSAT. Welcome, Meghna. Now, my next co-panelist is Ms. Soma Dam. She's head of senior secondary school and career guidance counselor at one of my favorite schools, Sun City School, Gurgaon, which is always advanced their practices in multiple intelligences proposed by Howard Gardner. Soma is the head of high school and career guidance counselor in Sun City School, Gurugram. She holds an MPhil in sociology and has completed certification courses in career counseling from UCLA Extension and teaches College Columbia University. Curating individual-centric high school experiences that caters to the holistic development of the child is what she loves doing the most, apart from teaching sociology to grade 11th and 12th. Welcome, Soma.
Thank you, Samir, and thank you, high school moms. Great to be here.
Last, my co-panelist is a very young and dynamic student, Anusha, from KC High School, Chennai. Anusha Dwarkanath is a highly motivated IB diploma student from KC High International School with a passion for research in the social sciences, history, and literature. She's most concerned with making advances in gender equality and education and spends a significant amount of time in volunteering or tutoring to make an impact with respect to these causes. Welcome, Anusha. Great. So I think in a true sense, in a true spirit of our today's panel discussion, let me invite each of my panelists to express their views on what do they think about equating academic excellence and intellectual capabilities. Is academic excellence means that you're intelligent? So we begin with Ms. Hema as a principal. Can you give us some insight on this?
Yeah, I think, thank you so much. And this is a question that plagues all of us at some point of our life, and we start with that. Of course, being head of education or being head of an education institute which promotes academic excellence and wants children to do their best, and the measure, of course, in today's world still continues to be the marks and also the grades that the children get and the universities they get placed into. We don't have much choice there. When I joined the education field in 2001 with Oak Ridge, and the measures was, of course, always and continued to be for quite a few years on where will they get into engineering, would they get into the medical field. Those two were being high priority, and then the rest falling way behind. It used to really upset us that all the children who had different inclinations didn't have much of an option there and were considered not good enough. We, of course, with IB, the options did change. We were looking at entrepreneurship or maybe business and economics and liberal arts being a fair option, and children actually very consciously decided. And of course, the computer science had picked up in then Andhra Pradesh, now Telangana. So thankfully for us, within 5 to 6 years of, by middle of the 2000s, things had started to change. Of course, it was now up to us to ensure that the mindset of parents also changed. So we had to do multiple workshops, get experts from different fields. We had to, sit with the children and do sessions with them, mostly closed group discussions, open group discussions, and educate them completely and or brainwash them in certain circumstances about to think out of the box, to understand that there are other career options, to also tell them that it's okay to not be the best in that one particular subject, but it's okay to be thinking of a career which is just not something that everyone is also looking at. So it took us a while, but I think over a period of 8 to 10 years, things did change. And today we stand at a place where any job that requires them to use the skills that they've picked up in school or is unheard of a job that maybe it does not exist anymore is a very it's a very pleasing opportunity for all of them, and they want to do that. So we have come a long way, but somewhere along, of course, academic excellence still is the benchmark, is the yardstick through which we do measure these children. I think of a dream of a world where maybe that's not the case, and maybe today we will discuss about alternatives and think about how we create a world where these children will be appreciated for the skills and inherent talent they have, and not for what the world believes to be the measure of success.
I heard a couple of interesting words, and I think what you brought in a point, which is conventional wisdom, is academic excellence is intelligence equal to engineering / doctor. That's the only route we've been, I think, understanding. And you picked up another very interesting point of the skill sets being, equally important. So academic excellence is not the only, benchmark, but there are other benchmarks which are evolving over a period of time. You've seen it in your ecosystem in 8 to 10 years. The other skill sets which are sort of emerging are the inclination to study liberal arts, which is a cross-pollination of sciences and humanities and other fields. And of course, the entrepreneurship is another upcoming field which you talked about. But I'm very interested and intrigued by your statement that we don't know what the future of job is likely to be. Maybe medicine and engineering is going to be automated. So what are we preparing our children for? I'm holding on to that thought and move on to Soma. Soma, Do you think academic excellence, you're one school which is very high on multiple intelligence and you identify each child's intelligence. Of course, you've been working on that, if not pedagogy, but at least a belief and a philosophy that each child learns differently. And it's basically dominated by the intelligence, which is more dominant in the natural way of child's learning. Could you please tell us how do you view academic intelligence or excellence for that matter?
Hi, good evening. I'm trained in sociology, right? And intelligence as a concept, as a discipline, is hogged by psychologists. And like most disciplines, academics rarely agree on what they mean by intelligence. So, what is intelligence? And I've been doing a little bit of research and reading up over the past week because I knew this was coming up, and I came across this one very nice, definition that somehow fits in with my training as a sociologist, which defines intelligence as a very general mental capability that, among other things, involves the ability to reason, plan, solve problems, think abstractly about comprehensive, complex ideas, learn quickly, and learn from experience. It is not merely book learning, a narrow academic skill or test taking smart. Rather, it reflects a broader and deeper capability for comprehending our surroundings, catching on, making sense of things, or figuring out what to do. So, in this very vast definition of intelligence, and there are multiple other definitions and multiple other paradigms of what intelligence is, how do we come across with an adequate measure of this term, which will justify someone who is academically excellent, or academically mediocre or academically poor, So can academic excellence thus become the adequate measure of gauging intelligence?
Soma, we're losing you. If you can be loud, you were good, but suddenly we lost you.
Okay, am I audible now?
A little better.
Is this better?
Little better, but you were really clear when you started.
Can I just change my network
Sure.
and see if
Sure.
sorry about this, but
Interesting. I think Soma has raised up. Soma has raised a couple of points. I'm sorry, my dog is. This is his walk time, so he's sort of getting petrified that why I'm sitting in a session discussing intelligence. He also has raised his concern about academic excellence, the only measure of intelligence. Dogs are inherently very intelligent creatures, by the way. So I think very interesting points which Soma has brought up is the general ability to reason, breaking down complex ideas into simpler sub-points and sort of meaning making through that process. She's talked about comprehension. And she's raised a concern that how do you what is the parameter of adequately measuring the wisdom? I think while Soma comes back, let me take the conversation to the next stakeholder, who's Anusha. Anusha, I think every time you write an exam, you come back home and the result is there. The first question the uncles and the aunts and the teachers ask, what is your percentage? And do you think that defines how intelligent you are based on what percentage you get?
I think it's really important that we think about it, so I'm glad to be here today. But despite having survived almost 14 years in the Indian system, I can't say with certainty that it is the best measure of intelligence because I've only been tested by it and I don't really know what else is out there. But I'm in the final year of my IBDP program right now, and reflecting on my school journey has led to the realization that growing up, I was always considered the intelligent girl, and I didn't have creative or groundbreaking thoughts. And in fact, I barely had any independent thoughts. I was just good at taking tests. So the question, is academic excellence the best measure of intelligence, is one that I only considered when I got a bad grade or took a difficult test and things like that. But with the pandemic, there's been like a big change with school shifting online. The way tested has changed significantly, and presentations, group projects have replaced pen and paper exams. And I think the biggest realization that's come from this is that academic excellence, when considered in the traditional sense, like pen and paper exams, is probably not the best measure of intelligence because it doesn't only test someone's conceptual understanding and knowledge like it means to do, but it also tests their memory and their ability to thrive in an exam setting, their ability to study, retain, and write it down. So, while intelligence may be correlated with academic excellence, this relationship is not causal in every case. Some students who are academically excellent are probably not intelligent, and vice versa. And I think this is because the academic environments that we 21st century learners find ourselves in today require us to be more than just academically successful to be considered intelligent and to excel and thrive.
Thank you so much. I think so much back, and you raised very pertinent points, Anusha. I really appreciate that you've survived the Indian education system, where the only way you think the academic intelligence can be, or your intellectual capabilities can be measured, is through a test, which is not necessarily a test of your intelligence. It's the test of certain skills, which could be memorization, sitting down in exam condition and being able to reproduce what you've learned in the class. But actually, is intelligence equivalent to being able to develop certain skills of writing an exam, or is it more than that? So thank you for challenging that status quo. And also that pandemic is asking these questions, glaring at our faces as educators. Say, how do you conduct assessment beyond pen and paper where children are not going to be in front of you? So thank you for bringing that perspective. Soma, you're back. Soma, would you like to conclude your point?
Yeah. So is this better? Can you hear me louder and better now?
It's okay, but we can hear you.
Okay, I'll scream like I normally do in class when someone has not turned in an assignment, and hopefully it will be better for all of you. Yeah, like I was saying, so therefore is academic excellence a right measure? The word is right. I think that is the word we should focus on. Is it the right measure to understand intelligence? And many cases, it might not be the right measure. I'm sure all of us have come across students who do not do well in pen and paper tests. But if you sit across and have a conversation with them, you will be completely blown away by the kind of, skill set, by the kind of conversation, by the level of articulation that the child is able to bring on. So is the examination able to capture that? And if the examination or the assessment is not able to capture that, then is it the child's fault or is it the assessment's fault? So I am, like I said previously also, I'm a fence sitter. I like academic excellence. I like a good result. Like any other normal Indian brought up in the 70s and 80s, we were conditioned to think like that, right? But I'm hoping it's going to be different for my students and for my children, where we can find a better measure, not the right measure, but a better measure, so that it can, incorporate and encapsulate all kinds of intelligences.
Very, very interesting points. And you focused on the word right in the question. And that's a very interesting focus, because I think the only way we've been measuring intelligence is through academic excellence. Can there be alternative methods of measuring intelligence? Can there be possibilities of children solving a real world problem? Can that be a measure of intelligence? Can child write, pick up, publish a research paper? That can be a measure of intelligence. Can child sort of build up an enterprise, and that can be a measure of intelligence? There are so many ways of measuring intelligence, and hence the word right has to change. So thank you so much. Meghna, I think you're someone who has conversation with teachers, you have conversation with principal, you have conversation with students, and you have conversation with parents. And I think, ironically, if your child is planning to go to DU, the first thing you would look at is 98, 99, 100. I don't know how much percentage will it be in coming years. So how do you, as a counselor, measure the intelligence of your child? Do you see a child through the prism of the report cards which are published in the school, or do you see beyond that?
Getting good grades will never go out of fashion, because in India, and in fact the formal schooling and the annual test is one of the predominant way of measuring how intelligent the child is and how good academically the child is. So it is here to stay. We are not here to challenge the education system established in India. But what I really think is, as a career counselor, I've always been talking to my students about profile building. Oh my God, there is something wrong with the dogs today. Continuously regarding the profile building, and we talk about their co-curricular, extracurricular participation. I keep on telling them holistic application, your holistic profile as academic, co-curricular, extracurricular, and try and maintain a balance between all three segments of your profile. That is what is called an overall developed holistic profile. So I believe the co-curricular, extracurricular activities would be a good way to show that unique skill set that the child possesses, which goes well beyond the standardized test and the annual score that the child reports. Of course, they are here to stay, but as an additional thing, to understand the child as an individual holistically, and to understand the best fit of the child with a particular program, with a particular university or a particular profession that he or she is aiming at. To look at the child beyond the grades. Only grades can't define an individual. And then we need to look at that unique skill set. Beginning, all schools should be encouraging for a child to develop. It's a job of not only career counselor, but probably principals and teachers to find out that unique possibility of developing that skill set, which makes the child unique and different from others. I mean, you just cannot be failing a fish because she cannot climb a tree. Simple as that.
Thank you, Meghna. You've raised a couple of interesting points. You've talked about building up a profile, which is extracurricular, co-curricular. So you mean that as a child has to do academically well. We are not here to challenge the status quo. It's one of the measures of intelligent academic excellence, and may not be intelligence. It could be skill set to be able to produce an answer in an exam situation, to be able to memorize better. But you also think that one has to develop 21st century skills through the unique experiences, co-curricular or academic, in addition to academic profile. You've worked in corporate, right? You've worked in industry. Have you ever judged a person while recruiting, because you've been part of the HR processes as well, based on the marks? I just would be very keen to hear that. What have been your answers when you interview somebody? Do you ask grade 10th and 12th standard marks? Though we are not changing that it's not important, it definitely is important. But just wanted to understand industry's perspective.
No, definitely. I've handled my own team of people at one point in time. And the only thing that I've been looking at while interviewing a person, very honestly, would be the nature of the job, the profile, and the person's traits, skills, and intelligence, which is required, to perform a particular duty, which goes well beyond the mark sheets and the standardized test scores, definitely. And what I've always believed is, like, with the increasing use of MI, increasing importance of AI in all the domains, I think we need the which robots cannot multiply, robots cannot copy. So that's where the skill set and the multiple intelligence come into the picture. As they always say, that if you think a robot can replace you, it should replace you. If you have nothing beyond robotic mechanical job to offer from your end, if you can't add on something from your end which is humane in nature, which is not robotic in nature, then a robot is surely here to replace you. So you really require that development, those multiple intelligence, which you cannot provide with robots.
Great. Thank you. So what I hear is academic intelligence or academic skill set is important to be able to reach a particular level. Beyond that, what is important is the skills you develop through engagement with real world situations. And of course, an IB is a great program. I'm myself an IB educator. It gives you an opportunity to engage through internal assessments, extended essays, and of course, Cambridge has its own perspective on that. Coming to Ms. Hema, I think this would be interesting to know. Do you have a framework to measure intelligence other than through academic excellence of your children? How would you, as a head of the school, measure the intelligence of your children beyond academic excellence?
I think yes. We over the years we have tried and we have put the system in place. This is of course IB gives you, like you said, a fantastic platform for that. The TOK presentations. The one thing that sets IB course apart from all the other courses is the theory of knowledge, and that is an independent study. And definitely you can't fake it. You need to actually think, and you have to read, and you have to analyze, and you have to look at ways of knowing and areas of knowledge and all those other aspects, and understand that everything is whatever you come up with, the explanations are extremely unique to you. So that's definitely one certain way of checking that you are on board and thinking independently. The other is, of course, we have all our debates, and we have our student council and prefect council and various leadership programs and an entrepreneurship programs where we put our children in situations where they have to again adapt, think out of the box, use their unique skill sets to display and understand and analyze situations. And that is again something that we promote and ensure that they come up with they stand out, and then it's a show of their intelligence and different thinking. We also, of course, work with children in making them understand what is unique about them and what are the skill set that they are, proud of. Uh, be it okay, they're good with painting, they're good with architecture, they're good with singing, and each of these are something that we celebrate, and we give them an platform to showcase and to for others to appreciate as well. So again, the big differentiator is also the leadership programs that we run for our children, and these are where they have Socratic dialogues, where they work with experts in different fields. They shadow people who have become have made a mark for themselves, and in different ways we give them an opportunity to explore and understand what they inherently would like to do and not just follow the herd. And yes, also prepare them in our own way for a future which is going to be very different from what we have seen or envisioned, and also give them the fact that they need to adapt. They need to learn how to handle setbacks. I think today's children need to be careful in the way they approach a problem, and the it keeping the well-being of everyone around them in and compassion as the key factors when they try to resolve problems. And we at school, of course, bring that into every of our all of our programs that we plan out for them.
Thank you so much. And I'm a great admirer of the TOK element of IB. I think as teachers, we try to teach them a theory. And then when we enable them to ask questions about the theory, how do you know what you know? How do you find the validity of reasoning? How do you find the validity of a statement or a theorem or whatever you've sort of learned in the class? That's interesting. And I think what I understand and hear from your conversation is another matrix of intelligence could be self-awareness. And this self-awareness can be developed in children through engagement with student leadership programs, entrepreneurship programs, programs like job shadowing, internships, or competitions. So basically, you understand and you recommend that as head of the institutions, while the focus continues to be in delivering the curriculum, there has to be parallel focus on building in skills, values, attributes, and dispositions of students so that they're most self-aware. So I understand self-awareness, another matrix of intelligence. We can consider it that way.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Soma, any advice for teachers? Because you particularly work with high school teachers, and we are with High School Mom platform. So any advice for teachers to sort of, use certain tools and techniques to measure other tools and techniques other than academic excellence to measure intelligence of the students?
So I think amongst all the panelists, I'm the only one teaching CBSE. So I can bring in that perspective wherein, I had, like last year, I had this very articulate, very intelligent student, and his assignments, his answer were top notch, but they were not what the board would have liked, had she gone and written the grade 12 board examination. So keeping in mind all of that, I had to continuously keep giving that feedback that, hold this back for college. for board, you need to know page 54 to 55 and these points. For the simple reason that even though in the marking scheme that as an evaluator you are given, and I'm a board evaluator, there is a point that says any other relevant point, most evaluators will choose to ignore that most other relevant point clause and will look for point number 1 to point number 10, which is there in the marking scheme. So that becomes a challenge when you are an educator teaching the senior school, senior classes, where you know in order to get academic excellence. Given that, how do you counteract it? How do you go beyond it? In 11th and 12th, in our school, we promote, support, encourage a lot of student-led initiatives. So students design the program. From the MUN that happens, to the newsletter that is published, to social that are done by them. Everything is created, designed, and then carried out. And we're really at the backdrop, completely at the backdrop. In fact, during the MUN conference, and because I'm the MUN coordinator, I'm part of a WhatsApp group, which I joined right at the beginning, but I then leave within a week and then join back just a day or two prior to the conference. In that period, they're told explicitly, you come to me only when Third World War is about to break, if the situation is that bad. Otherwise, learn to handle it on your own, because the school is the best place where you can make mistakes and afford to learn from those mistakes. It's a safe environment for you. We are there to tell you, we are there to protect, handhold, give you that security net. So I think as senior school teachers, our effort should be to give autonomy to our learners. Autonomy in finding their own voice, autonomy in creating projects. Your board project need not be those 10 topics mentioned by the board. You can come up with an 11th if you find that the child is interested in it. And then as educator, it becomes your job to convince the external that this makes complete sense. So I would
thank you so much.
strongly recommend, autonomy and that freedom to senior school students.
Very interesting point, and I know I can recommend that because I've been CBSE teacher for years. I've been board evaluators, and interesting enough, when it comes to international curriculum, we generally don't look at our answer keys. Our marking scheme do not have an answer. They basically focus on the argument child develops in the favor of the choice the child makes, right? So absolutely, it's irrelevant what the child writes in terms of the choice of the answer. I mean, choice A or choice B, both are right, as long as the argument developed in the favor is rational. But in national system, we are confined, our intelligence is again boxed, saying there are 5 answers and you have to choose one. And I've seen year on year, a lot of my students who've been voracious readers, and somebody who can write an independent book, an authored book under the age of 18, but they could not get more than 60 marks in English because probably the paper is evaluated by a teacher whose intelligence is in itself boxed by the framework of the board. And I love the point you made. Even though when you are a CBSE school, your responsibility is to develop the student agency, learner agency. And how do you do that within the framework while you prepare the child for the board exam? Because eventually child has to sort of appear in standardized tests, get the impossible task of 100 on 100 for psychology program at LSR or 99.5% for St. Stephen's. You still want to develop a learner agency, and that you can do through student-led conferences, which happens in MYP. I know Hima ma'am must also be hosting student-led conferences. It's a part of international. So if you're a national curriculum school, please do not get forced to box the intelligence of a child in the framework of the answer the board is expecting. Develop learner agency. Give charge to them by running clubs, by running problem-solving challenges, by enabling them to engage with real-world challenges while you still continue to box their sort of answers in the framework of the board. I love what you said, Soma. Thank you so much. Anusha, any advice for educators? Because you've been somebody who's transitioned from a national system. You very, very interestingly said that you survived in education system. So Indian education system, to somebody who transitioned to international system. So I want you to give a piece of advice to the national education system teachers, which you've learned in international curriculum, and a piece of advice for international curriculum teachers, which you may have learned it from national curriculum.
Okay, this one's a little tough, but I think it's impressive how much our teachers have adapted to the blended learning environment because it can't have been easy. If I were to give all my teachers a piece of advice that I've learned from studying in an international school, I think it would be this: converse with us. And Miss Soma briefly went over this earlier. It'll bring us one step closer to each other. And these interactions will probably help our teachers learn some things that they can't infer from our exam papers and test scores. But beyond that, I've noticed that all the teachers who do make an effort to attempt to communicate with me and understand me, those teachers are also the ones that help me feel like the learning environment is one where I can ask questions, one where my opinion is valued. And it is these environments that are vital to the production of intelligent thinkers and articulate learners. And the other way around, if I were to give teachers in my international school a piece of advice that I learned from teachers in the national board, I think it would just be to sometimes be a little hard on us, not say, okay, maybe that is the right answer, but because it gets very confusing. We don't know what is right and wrong in a world that's already so abstract, and the things we're learning are also abstract. Sometimes prepare us for the real world by being a little harsh. But I think right now it's perfect for me the way it is. But if I were to change one tiny thing, it would be this.
I just love what you said, because I think there has been a misunderstanding saying there is only for the national system teachers to learn from international system. But I think there can be a mutual learning and collaborative practices where we can learn from each other. And I think what you rightly said, in our system as children, we've always been trained not to ask questions from adults because that's considered as a mark of disrespect. We as a nation, we've been trained to be compliant. So let's break through that. While you break through that, you also brought in an interesting point for international school teachers that allow children to engage with real world, including failures, including saying that you can be wrong, because sometimes in international systems, we are encouraging, we are probably saving you too much. So I think that's an interesting point for us to take back. Finally, Meghna, before we head up to the last section, just for you to understand, do you have an advice for university representatives? How do you evaluate a student from international system vis-a-vis national system? It's a hard and it's a tightrope walk. Both kids come with a different skill sets.
Yes, in fact, under the brand name of NISV, we have both the boards, CBSE and IB. We have two schools running, and I see how beautifully they amalgamate. Even when MUNs are not syllabus, I see my bright CBSE students participating, and showing the courage and leadership. And in the same way, I mean, host of inter-house competitions, inter-school competitions. I see equal participation from my CBSE school and from my IB school children, and it's just so heartening to see that they are not boxed by the national curriculum, as you have put it rightly. And even when those CAS is not compulsory component, they engage into social service, they engage into building their profile through extracurriculars and co-curriculars. While for IB it becomes a compulsory component, to go for TOK and EE and CAS. But I see the equal good part, very bright CBSE students, which is, I think, a very, very positive signal that I, see. And I'm really very reassured of the future of my CBSE student, because end of the day, from whichever board they may appear, I have seen them lining up, they end being landed up in the same university where they meet again, as colleagues. And that's kind of a reassurance that no board has any superior hand over the others. It's you, the child, who can develop yourself, regardless of the board that you are from, and regardless of the...
I'm not able to see anything. Is it only me or...
We can see it, ma'am. We can see you. We're able to hear you and see you. Yes, Meghna, you want to conclude the statement?
Yes. So again, what I have realized over the time, the same my learning I would want to share with the university people, that look at the holistic profile building. Let it not be just that one test score be the measure of the child, that the individual child as an individual that you are rating to. And I'm very happy most of the universities, and the happy change is coming now in very many progressive Indian universities as well, where they are looking at holistic profile, and they have a very different way of looking at the child's application, and a lot of other things play a very important role, like interviewing the child to understand, the student beyond marks, the LORs, what teachers think, what teachers have observed about the student, makes a lot of difference, which is very well beyond the mark. And I would really want all Indian university, to look at the application the way all US universities in particularly, evaluate and look at the application. That's when, as a school also, will be more encouraged to help child build his or her unique skill set and help her see through beyond the numbers.
Thank you so much, Meghna. I think that's a very interesting point. While we're heading for the last 4 minutes, I'll appreciate if audience has any questions for the panelists, please feel free to ask. And I think, interesting enough, I'm also one with the perpetrators of the system, where we again measure the academic intelligence in terms of marks. And I think the conclusion of the discussion is we need to develop academic intelligence as one of the parameters of intelligence. Academic excellence is one of the parameters, maybe possibly, of intelligence, but not the only parameter. We need to develop more parameters on that. And I think I will be very intrigued and happy to see the day, I think when the results come, all of us as schools, every school publish the top results. I'll be very happy to see the mind shift in terms of school principals, including my own self, and leaders, where they start publishing the skills children would have developed, the problems they would have solved. And that becomes the change point in probably in our country, where we say so many of our children were able to solve this problem, so many of our children were able to develop and demonstrate this skill, and so many of our children have demonstrated or embraced this value. I think then when we start measuring the metrics in that context, there will be a paradigm shift. And interesting enough, I was going through the research on 600 young entrepreneurs, activists, scientists, and entertainers features in the 10th annual Forbes 30 under 30, with the youngest being 15 years old, and an average age of 30 under 30 was about 26.25 years. And it gives me a reason to hope. You know why? Because I think nowhere all these 600 people were asked, what were your board marks? The question is, what problem did you solve? Why did you solve that problem? So I think some are defying the odds and building businesses despite COVID-19. Others are helping to fight the illness, serving on hospital frontiers, or others are finding AI to discover new drugs. Some are solving social problems. Some are campaigning for migrant laborers. And that's where the intelligence comes, when you look at a layered world problem and you start engaging with that. So let us understand and resolve to keep the bias of conventional understanding of academic excellence. What is the conventional understanding of academic excellence? How many marks did I get? And redefine academic excellence. I'm again going to focus on redefining academic excellence, not just the ability to perform, achieve, or excel in scholastic activities. That probably will remain. Traditionally, that will remain one of your measure of academic excellence. But you also have to find out the maximum development of the intellectual capabilities and skills in service to humanity, in service to solving real-world problems. I think the way as a school, we as a community, school community, start publishing how many of our children have been able to solve real-world problems and not publish just the annual results, there will be a paradigm shift. With that, thank you so much. I allow if any one of you has any closing comment to make, please feel free to make the comment. Yes, Soma.
I think Neeraj Chopra has just won gold at the Olympics. And that skill, that practice, if anyone's going to come across and say he is not intelligent, then what are we measuring out here?
Interesting enough, I saw a caricature yesterday. It says that a couple of people saying, who are we? We are Indians. What do we want? We want gold. What do we want to become? We want to become engineers and doctors. So I think there is a paradigm shift where we need to make that intelligence is the hallmark where you engage with the real world problem and solve it, and not just being able to perform in scholastic activities. With that, thank you, my dear panelists. It was a fun conversation. We should continue and stay connected and see how many of us will publish the skills, values, and attributes and dispositions our children are able to develop in next 1 year and not just publish results. Thank you so much, audience, for joining in. Thanks a lot, Soma, for reminding that Neeraj wins gold.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thanks for
everybody.
having me.
Bye.
Thank you, Anusha. Your feedback was really important and appreciated.
Thank you.
For joining us.
So, Monica, we stay here or is it closed?
No, sir. I'll just close it and closing it actually. Okay. Yeah.
Thank
You
you,
can
everyone.
explore rest of the universities and workshops
Was
if you want.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot. We should stay connected, and next year, Hima ma'am, let's publish different forms of results online on IB
Yes,
website.
we will do that. Yes.
Great. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
bye, everyone.